Ah, the year 1325. The birds are chirping, the wind rustles the thatched roof overhead, and the scent of open sewage drifts through the morning air like a love letter from the devil himself. Welcome to another day in medieval Europe, and congratulations, you've survived the night. No small feat considering plague, famine, wolves, or your neighbour mistaking you for a witch could have ended you in your sleep. But alas, your lungs are still wheezing, your bowels still unpredictable, and the lice colony in your hair is thriving. It's a miracle. Time to get up. You open your eyes and stare at the crumbling wooden beams above. One of them creaks ominously. You briefly wonder if it'll fall and kill you. Honestly, could be a blessing, but no, you're a survivor. You roll off your mattress, a pile of sour, bug-ridden straw stuffed into an itchy burlap sack. It's moist, always moist. You don't ask why. The truth would break you. The air is cold, freezing really, because your house has no insulation or floor. The floor is mud. The walls are wood, barely holding back the wind. There's a single room for you, your spouse, your 5 children, your elderly mother, and the family goat. Everyone sleeps in the same pile. Privacy? That's for future people. Right now, your teenage daughter is snoring next to the hearth. Your youngest is peeing in the corner, and the goat is chewing on your only pair of socks. You stand up slowly. Every joint sounds like gravel in a blender. You're 24 years old and feel like a cursed skeleton. And to be fair, you are middle-aged, life expectancy around 30. But that's just the average. Plenty of people live into their 40s or even 50s, assuming they don't step on a rusty nail or catch a bad cough. Childhood, of course, is a game of Russian roulette. Your neighbours had 10 kids. 3 survived. That's just how it goes. You shuffle toward the toilet, which is in reality a wooden bucket behind the house, a bucket you share with the entire household. If you're lucky, it's not full yet. If you're unlucky, and let's be honest, you'll be dumping it in the street with a casual yell of "Gardyloo." That's medieval slang for incoming feces. The town street doubles as a public sewer, which explains the smell that never leaves your nose. Rain helps, but then it just becomes diarrhea soup. Bathing? Not today, or this week, or this month. In fact, you've had exactly 1 bath since Easter, and you're not even sure if it helped. The water was cold, the soap was lye, and the neighbour watching you from a hole in the wall was not subtle. People say too much. Bathing weakens the body, opens the pores to miasma, deadly air that causes disease. Besides, you need to save your wood for cooking. Firewood is expensive, illegal to steal, and you don't want to get your hands chopped off for it again. So instead of cleaning, you scratch. Fleas, lice, mystery rashes. Your constant companions, everyone has them. Noblemen scratch too, they just do it with fancier combs. If you get sick of the itching, you can always try shaving your entire body and coating yourself in goose fat. That's not a joke. That's medical advice, circa plague times. Your clothes are already on because you sleep in them, because you only own one outfit, a woolen tunic that smells like a corpse's armpit. Undergarments? Maybe. If you've managed to marry into the underpants class, your shoes are 2 leather flaps tied with string. If they've got holes, and they do, then tough luck. Try not to step on a rat skull. Now it's time for breakfast. And by breakfast we mean a ladle of pottage, a thick, greyish stew made from grains, water, old vegetables, and wishful thinking. It's been simmering for days in the same pot, which hasn't been cleaned since King Edward's last war. Some days there's a scrap of meat in it, or what you pray is meat. Other days it's gruel with a bonus, a beetle doing the backstroke. Either way, this is your meal. It's hot, it's wet, it doesn't scream when you bite it. That's enough. You tear off a hunk of bread. It's dense, black, and so hard it could double as a murder weapon. You dunk it in the pottage to soften it, because your teeth aren't up to the challenge anymore. Not after years of chewing grit, bones, and despair. Speaking of teeth, you're missing 3. You pulled one yourself last summer with a knife, heated over a candle. The pain made you see Jesus, or maybe it was just blood loss. You wash it all down with ale. That's right, beer for breakfast, because water is deadly. The rivers are full of poop, the wells are full of dead frogs, and last time you drank from the stream, your insides tried to exit your body. Beer, at least, is boiled and mildly sterile. Even the children drink it. It's weak, but It still takes the edge off the morning. Your 6-year-old son is on his second mug. Your kids, those lucky survivors, are already working. Your daughter is sweeping filth from the house into the street, which is hilarious because the whole town is the street. Your son is chasing the family goose which laid an egg this week, a sign that maybe, just maybe, God hasn't cursed you entirely. Your youngest is trying to eat a rock. That's normal. You'll stop him if he starts choking. You glance toward the field. It's your job. You're a villain, a tenant farmer, bound to this lord's land like a medieval sharecropper. You don't own your field. You don't own your house. You don't own your life. You pay rent in crops, work and obedience. Disobey and you're out, or worse. The bell rings from the church tower. Time to get moving. You grab your hoe, kiss your wife's forehead and step outside. It's raining. Cold, wet, bone-chilling rain. Again. You sigh, wipe your nose with your sleeve and trudge toward another 14-hour shift of back-breaking labor. At least there's one silver lining. You didn't die in your sleep. Congratulations, your child has survived the most dangerous part of their life, being born. Birth is less a miracle and more a violent gamble. Your local midwife, who may or may not have washed her hands this decade, delivers the baby with a mix of herbal tea, prayer and yelling. There's no anesthesia, no antiseptics, and no understanding of germ theory. If the cord wraps around the neck, if the baby is breech, or if the stars are feeling spiteful. That's it. A tragedy. And just another Tuesday. But yours lived, hooray! And now your job is to keep them alive in a world where everything is designed to kill them. Children in medieval times were seen less as adorable gifts from heaven and more like tiny, replaceable workers. Infant mortality rates were brutal. Up to 1 in 3 didn't make it past their 5th birthday. Diarrhea could kill them, so could cold, or teething, or stepping on a cursed snail. Babies are swaddled tightly like little burritos, sometimes tied up on a board and hung from a hook. Why? To keep them still while you work the fields, or cook, or try not to die. Eventually they learn to walk, which means they also learn to walk straight into a fire, drown in a bucket, or eat dirt with suspicious enthusiasm. Education? Don't be silly. Your village doesn't have a school. It barely has roofs. If your child's lucky, a monk might teach them Latin at a monastery. If you're rich, you hire a tutor who makes them recite prayers until their brain oozes out. If you're poor, your kid's curriculum consists of "don't touch that" and "here's how you carry pig slop." By age 7, they're working, no discussion. The boys are shepherding, sewing, chopping, begging. The girls are tending fires, raising younger siblings, spinning wool and preparing for childbirth. Because by 13, they might be married. Childhood is not a protected phase. It's a tutorial for suffering. Toys, sure. A rock, a stick, maybe a doll made from a corn cob and your mother's hair. No batteries required, just imagination and the looming threat of the plague. Welcome to the medieval meal plan, where flavor is optional and starvation is always on the menu. Your diet depends on 2 things, your social class and how angry God is at the weather. As a peasant, you eat pottage. Morning, pottage. Lunch, pottage. Dinner, extra pottage, now with mold. It's a sludge of barley, oats, water, and anything vaguely edible you can find. Onions, roots, beans, bugs, maybe a sliver of salted meat if a miracle occurs. Bread is a staple, but not the fluffy kind. Yours is black, heavy, and made with ground-up bits of bran, weed seeds, and sometimes clay or sawdust to stretch the flour. It's dense enough to injure someone, and it might. Watch your teeth. In summer, you have fresh things, wild berries, leafy greens, apples. In winter, you have salted meat, dried fish, and tears. Famine hits hard and often. One bad harvest, and everyone starts licking rocks. People boiled shoe leather. They ground tree bark into flour. In France, some villages may have eaten each other. Cannibalism? Probably. Desperation makes food groups blurry. If you're nobility, your meals are different. Banquets with roasted swan, whole pigs and pies full of live birds that fly out when sliced. Yes, really. But even nobles suffer. They love spice so much they'll mask spoiled meat with it. Their teeth rot faster than yours. And if you live near a market, there's street food. Fried fish, pies, and maybe a sausage of questionable origin. You eat it with your fingers, wipe them on your shirt, and keep walking. There's no health inspection. If you get sick, just pray. That's the FDA. Alcohol is a food group. Ale for breakfast, wine at dinner, water is last resort. So you and your kids are buzzed 24/7. Mildly, sure, but enough to blur the suffering. It's the only comfort you get. Feeling sick? Of course you are. Everyone is. Welcome to the medieval healthcare system. Pray harder and bleed more. Disease is a constant companion. You could die from a cough, or a bad cut, or a mosquito. The Black Death alone wiped out 30 to 60% of Europe. You don't know what causes it. Bad smells? Sin? Saturn being in the wrong constellation? All equally valid theories. When you fall ill, your options are limited. You can go to a barber surgeon who cuts hair and removes limbs, a wise woman who has herbs and absolutely zero regulations, a priest who might perform an exorcism, a leech collector. Their entire job is to find leeches, put them in a bucket, and sell them to doctors who want to suck your blood out. Bloodletting is the go-to cure for everything. Headache, drain a pint, sore back, open a vein, demon in your stomach, drill a hole in your skull, tree panning, they called it. Sometimes people survived, often they didn't. Your town has a plague doctor, if you're lucky. He wears a horrifying beak mask stuffed with herbs. You assume he's magical. He assumes you're already doomed.
Hospitals? Hilarious. They're more like death hotels run by monks. You go there to die in peace and infect others. No sanitation, no painkillers, just a wooden spoon to bite.
To prevent disease, people carry dried flowers, vomit in corners, or rub onions on their armpits. None of it works, but it feels productive. If nothing else, you'll smell like a medieval salad. Ah yes, love in the Middle Ages, a sacred union forged by duty, land ownership, and the desperate need to not die alone. Marriage is not about love, it's about economics and survival. Families arrange them early, sometimes before the kids hit puberty. A 14-year-old girl might be married to a 40-year-old man who smells like pickled feet and owns a goat. Romantic, the church is heavily involved. You must marry through proper channels or risk damnation. Premarital sex is a sin. Adultery is a bigger one, but everyone's doing it, and nobody's good at hiding it. Your neighbor's baby has red hair. Neither parent does. Women are property. Once married, a woman belongs to her husband, along with anything she owns. Her job? Produce children and not die doing it. Birth is brutal. No anesthesia, no sterile tools, and a 1 in 10 chance of dying each time you push one out. If the child survives, great. If not, make another. Rinse and repeat until menopause or death. And don't forget, the church bans contraception, so family planning equals hope God gives you a break. Sex? It happens. It's awkward. It's fast. It's occasionally banned on Wednesdays, Fridays, Sundays, feast days, and Lent. So roughly 200 days a year, you're told to behave. Doesn't stop anyone. The brothel down the road does great business, so does the priest quietly.
Love exists, yes, in poems, songs, and sometimes real life. But mostly, marriage is a grim alliance against the wolves of poverty. If you grow old together, that's rare. If you die within days of each other from plague, that's true medieval romance.
In medieval Europe, religion isn't just part of life, Audie, it is life. The church controls everything: your birth, your education, your marriage, your taxes, and your funeral. God is always watching. So is the priest. And possibly your neighbor who will absolutely snitch on you for eating meat during Lent. Church bells dictate your daily schedule. You wake up to prayer, work under prayer, and fall asleep fearing eternal fire. There are over 100 holy days a year, most of which involve fasting, worshipping saints, or not doing laundry. Speaking of saints, everyone's obsessed with them. You pray to Saint Anthony to find your lost shoe. You pray to Saint Sebastian to not die from the plague. Churches collect body parts from dead saints, or say they do. That finger bone you kissed might actually be a chicken knuckle, but you kissed it, and you feel blessed. Relics and pilgrimages are big business. If you can afford it, you travel 500 miles to stare at a piece of wood, allegedly from Christ's crib, or a vial of Mary's breast milk, or the foreskin of Jesus. Yes, that was a real relic. Multiple churches claim to own it. Collect them all. The clergy are meant to be holy. Some are, others are wildly corrupt. Priests have mistresses. Monks get drunk. Bishops extort you for indulgences, meaning you can pay to spend less time in purgatory. Hell is real, terrifying, and heavily illustrated in church murals. You see demons sticking pitchforks up people's butts every Sunday. Motivational. Witchcraft? A constant threat. If your neighbour's cow dies, it's probably because old Gertrude muttered something while staring at the sky. Burn her. Problem solved, and your life is spent in fear, a hail of sin, of demons, of the devil, of eternal damnation. But the church offers you something nothing else in medieval life does: hope. A chance at paradise, a reward eventually, assuming you don't screw it up. There's no such thing as a lazy medieval day. If you're alive, you're working. Unless you're a noble, then you're watching others work and complaining about the noise. Your job is determined at birth. If your dad is a pig farmer, congratulations. You're also a pig farmer. If you're lucky, you're apprenticed to a blacksmith, a weaver, or a baker. If you're really lucky, you're a monk who gets to copy books in a stone room while freezing to death. For everyone else, there are thousands of brutally specific jobs. Tanner, you make leather by soaking animal hides in urine. You smell like hell. Fuller, you clean wool with fuller's earth and more urine. Everything uses urine. Gong farmer, you clean out latrines. It's medieval for sewage diver. Rat catcher, self-explanatory. Bonus points if you don't get bitten. Leech collector, you wade into swamps and let leeches attach to your legs, then rip them off for doctors to buy. Work begins before dawn. You plough, sow, cook, haul, hammer, thatch, mend, scrub. There's no vacation, no unions, no benefits. You work through injury, through childbirth, through grief. Rest is for corpses. Guilds control the skilled trades. They decide who gets to call themselves a master, how many apprentices you can have, and how much you charge for shoes. If you anger the guild, back to fieldwork. If you're jobless or disabled, you beg. If you're caught begging without permission, you're whipped or thrown in the stocks. Poverty is treated as a personal failure, unless you're a monk, in which case being poor makes you holy. Women work too, non-stop. They tend fields, make clothes, raise children, brew ale, and occasionally deliver babies. None of it is considered official work, but society collapses without it. Retirement, that's a fantasy. You work until you drop. If you're lucky, someone buries you. If not, the dogs will take care of it. Medieval justice is swift, public, and deeply personal. There's no CSI, no lawyers, and no Miranda rights. If you're accused of a crime, your fate is determined by angry mobs, suspicious judges, or God himself, usually all three. Let's say you're caught stealing bread. You might be pilloried in the town square, hands and head locked in wood, while people throw turnips at your face, flogged until your back looks like raw meat. Branded with a hot iron. On your hand, if you're lucky. On your face, if you're not. Punishments are meant to deter, not rehabilitate. That means making examples out of people, often in the most humiliating way possible. For serious crimes like murder or treason, beheading. If you're noble, it's quick and clean, theoretically. If you're not, hanging, drawing, and quartering. They tie your limbs to horses and rip you apart like medieval spaghetti. People bring snacks to watch. Women accused of adultery might be shaved bald and paraded naked through the streets. Witches are burned, drowned, or pressed under rocks until their ribs pop. Sometimes you're given a trial by ordeal, where you stick your hand in boiling water or carry a hot iron. If your burns heal cleanly, you're innocent. If not, oops. Jails are temporary holding pits full of rats and disease. The real punishment happens outside, in front of the community. Justice is public, theatrical, and designed to stick in your nightmares. People are terrified of breaking the law, but they still do because they're starving, desperate, or just sick of their lives. And sometimes the only justice is the kind you take with your own hands. Feuds, revenge killings, and mob justice are all very in style. And remember, sometimes being poor is considered a crime. And sometimes all it takes to be guilty is to be weird, foreign, or disliked by someone with a big mouth and a priest on speed dial. Now let's visit the other 1%, the nobles, the barons, the lords and ladies. Life for them isn't hard, it's boring and full of gout. Nobles live in castles, giant, freezing stone fortresses that are draftier than a broken window factory. They're constantly under construction, smell faintly of rot, and are full of guards, servants and rodents. Think luxury prison with better snacks.
Your job as a noble is to manage land, collect taxes, and remind peasants that you're better than them. You don't farm, you don't clean, you don't even wipe your own butt if you're rich enough. You have a groom of the stool for that.
Meals are lavish. You get spices from the east, meats cooked in wine, pastries shaped like animals, and entire banquets with entertainment. Minstrels sing, jesters fart on command, bears are chained up for amusement. Because what says power like animal cruelty during dinner? You learn to read, write, speak Latin, and wield a sword. Boys train to be knights. Girls are educated in embroidery, poetry, and passive suffering. Marriage is political. You might be betrothed at age 6 to a cousin you've never met and shipped off at puberty to seal an alliance. Daily life includes falconry, hunting, and tournaments where men try to kill each other for your honor. Writing sad poems about love and God. Gossiping about who's sleeping with the stable boy. Getting diseases from undercooked swan meat and bad hygiene. You sleep on canopied beds stuffed with feathers, surrounded by tapestries and servants. But your teeth still rot. Your breath still smells. And your doctor still thinks a fever means you have too much blood. Being a noble means privilege, yes, but also pressure. One bad political move and you're imprisoned or beheaded. One bad harvest and your peasants revolt. You live in constant fear of betrayal, poison, and annoying relatives. And yet, if you're lucky, you die fat, rich, and covered in velvet. Which, by medieval standards, is about as good as it gets. The medieval battlefield is not a place of honor, it's a mud-soaked slaughterhouse. Knighthood sounds glamorous, armor, horses, glory, but it's more expensive cosplay meets blunt force trauma. Armor is custom-fitted steel that costs more than a peasant's entire life. Once you're in it, you're nearly invincible, unless you fall over. Then you're just a clanking turtle waiting to be stabbed through the eye slit. Knights are trained from childhood, first as a page, which is basically a noble toddler servant, then as a squire learning to ride, fight, and avoid death. Finally, you're dubbed a knight by a monarch, or noble with a firm smack to the shoulder and a vague hope you don't die immediately. Your job? Kill people in the name of God, king, or whoever's paying. You fight in chainmail under the blazing sun, then freeze at night in a damp tent. You ride for days, eat dry rations, and when battle comes, it's brutal, loud, and stupid. Most deaths aren't heroic duels, they're getting trampled by your own horse, crushed under fallen comrades, or skewered by some peasant with a pointy stick. Sieges are even worse. Months of waiting, starvation, disease, and flinging dead animals over castle walls to spread plague. Victory often means burning everything down and taking whatever's not nailed to the altar. The idea of chivalry, protecting the weak, showing mercy, is mostly propaganda. Sure, a knight might rescue a noblewoman, but if you're a peasant, he'll burn your village, kill your husband, and steal your cow. After battle, there's no therapy, no debriefing. You return home with missing limbs, nightmares, and the smell of rotting flesh permanently stuck in your nose. War is everywhere, in petty, noble disputes, invasions, crusades, rebellions. You could be minding your business when soldiers sweep through and torch your house. No warning, no reason, just another Tuesday. If you're a man, you might be conscripted. If you're a woman, war comes for you differently. Pillage, assault, loss. No one escapes clean. There are no medals, no pensions, only scars, physical and mental. And if you're lucky, a wooden leg and stories no one wants to hear. As the sun sets, the medieval world shifts. Without streetlights or electricity, darkness isn't just inconvenient, it's terrifying. You stay inside after dusk. Everyone does, because outside lurks the unknown, wolves, bandits, and things worse than death. Superstition isn't a hobby, it's survival. The night belongs to ghosts. Every village has its haunted well, its headless nun, its wandering monk who screams in Latin. People report seeing will-o'-the-wisps, fairies that kidnap children, and creatures that sit on your chest while you sleep and suck the life from your body. Spoiler, that's sleep paralysis. There's no separation between folklore and reality. You believe in demons, you believe in vampires, you believe that if you sleep with your mouth open, your soul might escape. Or a rat might crawl in, doors are barred, garlic is hung, salt is sprinkled in corners. You sleep with charms, relics, or rusty knives under the bed, just in case. If a storm hits at night, the village priest might be dragged out to pray the thunder away. If a baby dies mysteriously, people blame witches or elves, not bacteria. You don't know what bacteria is, but you're pretty sure your neighbor muttered something under her breath last week, and now your cow's dead. Coincidence? Never. People pass down horror stories like heirlooms, about cursed fields, talking animals, haunted woods, about travelers who vanished on moonless nights. You believe them all, because in a world this grim, monsters make perfect sense. So when night falls, you hide. You huddle near the fire, say your prayers, and hope nothing knocks on your door, because if it does, you don't open it. Let's clear something up. Yes, medieval people bathed, but not the way you're thinking. You don't have a personal bathtub. You share a wooden tub with your entire family. Water is hauled by bucket and heated over fire, so you bathe once a week. Maybe. You go in order. Dad first, then mom, then kids. By the end, the water looks like soup. A very unfortunate soup. Soap exists, made of lye and animal fat. It smells terrible. It sort of works. Bathhouses are popular in cities, gender segregated, sometimes fancy, sometimes brothels in disguise. A steam and soak could include food, music, and extra services. Eventually, the church starts cracking down on public bathing, because anything involving nudity must be sinful, obviously. Teeth. You chew herbs like mint or sage. You rub charcoal on your gums. There are no toothbrushes, no toothpaste. Your breath could knock out a donkey. You don't wear deodorant, but you might carry a pomander, a little ball filled with spices to mask the stench. Or just carry a flower and hope no one notices. Your clothes are wool, linen, and full of lice. You comb them out with special nitpicking combs, and yes, that's where the phrase comes from. You boil your underwear to kill bugs. Assuming you have underwear. Toilet time? You use a chamber pot. You dump it out the window. Into the street. Gardez l'eau, they shout in French. Watch out for the water. That's where we get loo. Congratulations, you just learned a British slang term from centuries of human waste. In castles, toilets are called garderobes, vertical shafts that drop waste straight down into the moat, which is also full of fish, which you sometimes eat. Good luck. People don't think they're dirty. They think you're overly obsessed with cleanliness. And maybe they have a point. At least they didn't use microplastics. Yes, everyone smells, but everyone smells together. And that's the real medieval perfume, shared, universal funk. And there you have it, a full day, or lifetime, in the medieval world. You've survived disease, hunger, war and childbirth, church mandates and chamber pots, bad bread, worse doctors and the endless smell of wet wool. Your reward? Maybe a warm meal, maybe a song by the fire. Maybe you live long enough to tell your story, or have it told about you 700 years later in a textbook. Medieval life wasn't romantic, it wasn't noble, it wasn't simple, it was filthy, painful and brutally short. But it was also full of resilience, dark humour and weird little joys, like fresh ale or a good shoe, or just not being dead yet. So next time your phone dies, your food's late, or you have to wait in line to the DMV, remember, at least you weren't born in 1347, roll credits. And thank whatever god, ghost or gremlin you believe in that you live now and not then.